I am your host, Carrie Scollon, giving us different perspectives on where we are and where we want to go on our journey. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to spending some time with you. Hi, everybody. This is Carrie, your host of the Founder Series, and I have a guest on today that I think you're going to find super interesting. I love a lot of what she talks about. I've practiced some of what she talks about, and I'm learning and I'm curious, and I can't wait to dive in. So, Dana Skoglund, thank you so much for being here. Skoglund.
You got it.
I got Donna right, but I wanted to nail that. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. I'll do a little bit of an introduction just so the audience knows where you're coming from. But then I'm going to get you to dive in and explain it more to us. So you're a master mindset coach for high achievers. And I like the one thing that I read, and it was create your dream life with ease by changing your brain. So much I want to dive into. I love that you're going to talk about the subconscious mind. I love that you're going to give us some tools and you're going to help us understand some different ways of looking at things. So, Donna, thank you so much for being here. And I say we just dive right in, like introduce yourself, tell me how you got into this, and let's go.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I feel like I've always been on this journey. I was reading books on Eastern wisdom when I was a teenager. My parents were into all of that stuff. So they had books on Buddhism and yoga on the bookshelves, and like Buddhas all over our house. So seeds were planted at a very, very young age. And my mom was always into personal development. And so shortly after college, I started to teach yoga, and I've been teaching yoga for about 20 years or so. And 12 years ago, I was teaching yoga. We had just moved from New York City to a small town in BC, Canada, which is where I live now. And we were, yes. Yeah. We were we had just bought our first house, two young sons at the time. And my husband basically said, you need to make more money. And his brother's wife did car insurance sales.
Okay.
So he suggested that I do that.
Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it seems
right, exactly.
But aside from where you were.
Yeah, my first thought was hell no.
Yes.
The second thought was, why do you think that I would even want to do that? And then the third thought was really a decision that I was going to find a way to do what I love and make good money.
Yes.
There's got to be a way. I had no idea what that would look like. Again, I was just teaching yoga at the time, but I chose to believe that there was a way that I could do what I absolutely love. And
that's the big thing that people are missing, right? There is a way if you're willing to do the work to find the way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's okay if you don't know what that looks like in the beginning, because I had no idea. I didn't even really know anything about life coaching at the time. Yeah. Like it was just not on the radar at all. Yeah. And I decided there's got to be a way, and I was not going to settle. Like I just could not even imagine just finding a job just to pay the bills and just doing something purely for the paycheck. Well,
and especially if it takes you away from the kid, it's got to be something that fills you up at least a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I really, looking back, I think the main thing I did was I just kept following my curiosity, and I kept following my desire. And what do I want to learn next? What is calling me? What do I want? And I just kept kind of following those breadcrumbs of my own desire. I got into Ayurveda, which is yoga sister science. So it's a very kind of, sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog barking, but
I didn't hear. That's okay. I don't like dogs.
Okay. So my yoga teacher introduced me to Ayurveda, and I have always been interested in holistic health. So I was like, yes, that seems interesting. And I started to learn more about it. I did a detox. That was kind of like the first thing I did. And I just wanted to learn more and more. And again, just purely desire, purely curiosity, purely interest.
Yeah.
And after I learned for about a year or so, my Ayurvedic teacher was starting a program to teach people how to teach people, this lifestyle.
So is it a practice or is it like you say lifestyle? So is it and
it's everything. So basically it's 5,000 years old. So it's like the oldest healing science in history, like written history. And it's based on living in alignment with the cycles of nature. So now we know this as like circadian rhythms, and understanding how the environment affects us and how there's different energies at different times of the day. And it's all about aligning to these cycles. So now there's so much more. People talk about like cycles of, for women, like the menstrual cycle, and really understanding that there's different phases that we go through, and there's ways to align to those phases. Like our energy shifts at different times of the month, but also different times of the day. Right. But in our Western culture, we're so disconnected from our bodies, from nature, from our intuition, that it's like we live from the neck up, and we are just taught to listen to experts out there, and we're so out of touch with our body. So Ayurveda is really all about learning how to read your own body like a book.
Amazing.
And understand what your body needs, and understand your relationship to nature and the rhythms of nature and the cycles of nature. So it's really like how to live, essentially. Like that's one of the Ayurveda actually means the science of life, or the wisdom of life.
Oh, beautiful.
And I think of it as like the art of living.
Well, and it sounds like that the stuff that I'm learning too is we're always, when we're not in touch with our insides, and it's like we're constantly going against the flow. So when you talk about ease, when you can get into what your body is actually craving,
yes,
if you listen to it, that's where you start to get more ease, because you're going in the rhythm and the cycle of what it was meant to be.
Absolutely.
Right? So our bodies were created in the cycles. Yeah. So I know that I've been dipping my toe into astrology, because that's all about cycles, energies, and different times. Is that piece taken into account on that?
So Vedic astrology comes from the same, like yoga, Ayurveda, Vedic astrology all comes from the same ancient texts.
Okay.
Beautiful. So they're all related. They all kind of overlap in many ways. So, and all of it comes from, like, Chinese medicine comes from Ayurveda, like modern, well, not even modern astrology, but like astrology comes from original, like those ancient texts.
Ancient texts, for sure.
Yeah.
I just think it's so, my mind has been open to so much more since diving into this work more. I think I've been on that same journey. I remember I bought and I must have been 19 or more, because I think you needed a visa to buy it from the TV. And it was the cassette tapes. Now, I don't know if it was Tony Robbins or if it was Bob Proctor, but it was one of them. So I'm thinking, I'm 50. I will be 55. So I started this journey at 19. I don't think I understood anything I was reading at that point. And then in my 40s, 50s, it's like I'm taking it all in. It's just like there's so much out there.
Yeah.
But it's so good. Like
so good.
So good. And recently I've done the human design, which again is how are we made up? What is going to bring us the success in whatever way you determine what success is. But I want ease. I want things to come with ease that I'm fulfilled doing, that can make me money to support. Absolutely. Well,
totally.
It allows me to give more when I make more. So that's what I love. But we can do that easier. And it's not such a struggle, which most of us kind of find ourselves in at some point, I would say. We're absolutely. To figure out what it is and what fills us up. I think I lost that along the way. I didn't know what filled me up anymore.
Yeah. And
Like
so common, so common.
Serious again.
And I think especially as women, we've been told to take care of everyone else and put our desires on the back burner. And our job is really to support everyone else's goals. And, ours are less important and less valued. So I think that it's so common. I get a lot of my clients come to me in their 40s and 50s who really feel like they have no idea what they want.
Yeah.
But the truth is, and I always dig, is they do know. They always know.
I agree.
But they are either too afraid to just vocalize it, to claim it.
Yes.
And there's so many fears and doubts that it's not possible, it's not for them, they can't do it, that prevents them from even, basically admitting what they want.
Right. And taking that first step. And I think you described me to a T.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I started that, and it was scary, and the more I dug in, it was like, well, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know what I want. That was my answer to everything. I don't know. That's why I'm here. I don't know what I want. But the quieter I got, the more still I got. It was like, actually, I do know what I want. And it's been showing me all the way along, but I chose to not look at those little hints I was getting, those intuitions, those, and when I started to look back, and I think it was Steve Jobs that said that, you can't connect the dots moving forward, right? But you certainly can looking back.
Exactly.
And it kind of showed me my path. I'm like, I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes, totally. And that's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah. And the same for me. It's like when I look back, I can see, again, like reading those, because now I bring the East and the West together. So I all my work is informed by yoga, Buddhism, Ayurveda, but I also love science, and I love brain science and neuroscience and behavioral change and habit change. And so I bring those two, and there's so much in what all that ancient Eastern wisdom is now all just being backed up by science.
Right. Yes. Which is
all the same.
Which is incredible, because I think we needed that to give it some of the validity that it was missing, right? People just kind of, whatever, that's way too out there for me. Don't know what you're talking about, And now I think that's why the world's changing, though.
Yeah.
I think you're able to connect with more people, like the ones who are more science-based, want the facts.
Right.
And by joining it together, it's no brainer. Like, that's how I feel. Yeah. Like,
totally
cannot dispute this.
Exactly.
And I think it's just a real example of how we're all connected. We're all one, and everything intertwines.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's an exciting time to be here.
It is. It's amazing. Excited. Yeah. And you mentioned another part of Ayurveda, which you talk about human design, is understanding that we each have like a unique constitution. And it's through understanding your constitution and then how to best optimize your diet, your lifestyle for your constitution. So there's no one size fits all, which is, which is kind of what we've been taught this whole, this diet works for everyone, or this, business plan works for everyone, but it doesn't. Like, we're all different. And so that's also where the individuality comes in, and realizing that the more in tune you can be with how, your patterns, your tendencies, your constitution, then what you need to create balance and to thrive and to optimize and to really expand your own gifts and strengths instead of trying to be like someone else or trying to do what works for someone else.
And I think when the coaching world kind of appeared, it was, this is the method. Mm-hmm. This is what you do. Follow these steps. And that has changed. Mm-hmm. Like, my method was what I used for me, but it can be used for you in your own way, right? Like, as a coach, you want to help them figure it out. What works for them, not what worked for me.
Right.
Let's figure out how we can put it all together so that it works for you. Because you're right, there's not one way. We are all individual. So give me an idea what you would do then for you take a client on for the first time. Can you give me a little bit of an idea of how you how you kind of go through with them to start to figure that out. I mean, we don't need the whole thing because
Right. Yeah. So I always start with, what do you want?
yeah.
And we really answer that question. We create a lot of clarity first, because I think you've got to, it's like start with the end in mind. So and I think of it as like a before and after. Like, what's the after? Where do you want to be? What do you want? And, let's look 6 months from now, a year from now. So it's close enough that we can really create a somewhat of a plan. And then we want to know, where are you now? It's like a map. When you're going somewhere, you need to know the destination, and then you need to know the starting point, and that will help you figure out the route to get there.
Yep.
So where you are now is, what are you thinking now? What are you believing now? How are you feeling now? What are you doing now? What are the current results? And then what are the desired results? And so then we can see where the disconnect is, because who you are now is not the same person who will get you there. It's like what you got here won't get you there.
Exactly.
So then we start to uncover, like, what are the beliefs? What are the blocks? What are the fears? What are the doubts that are getting in the way of you creating what you want? And that's where the subconscious reprogramming. And so I work a lot with the emotions, because your emotions are a huge part of the subconscious mind.
Yes.
So tuning in, and you mentioned before, yes, and I agree. I don't coach and tell you what to do. I help you find the answers within by connecting to your own body and your intuition and your emotions.
Yes.
So
there's a lot done, right? It's
right.
It's like, well, where are they? Because I can't find them. So and you're helping them go through that process of really connecting. And your yoga background would be incredible for that.
Yeah. Well, just being more in your body versus in your head. Because we live in a Western culture that's neck up, and it's all logical, and it's all intellectual. It's all mind over matter.
Yeah.
And the process, and this is why I think there's a lot of confusion too, because we're trying to think our way through, and we can just go back and forth in our head endlessly and spin in our minds and not get anywhere, because we can logically, do justify your pros and cons and blah, 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 and justify and excuses and all that stuff. But when you drop into the body, which, that's the intuition, that's the emotions, then you connect with like your inner guidance and inner wisdom.
And that's where the change can happen, or you need that for the change to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's where like you get a lot of insight, and there's that inner, you can learn to trust yourself too. Because when you're in your head, it's like there's all the voices from the outside, and it's also the conditioning of what you've been taught, and society and culture and all these things that can disconnect you from what you want and what's best for you.
And when I hear you talk, it feels like it's such a calm place to be. It just feels so grounded. It feels peaceful. And can you imagine if we could all come from that place in the decisions that we're making or the experiences that are coming to us? We're all going to face hard, difficult things. We all know that. I mean, that's inevitable that we're going to have to deal with some of these things. And I think that's, for me, been a beautiful part is I can go in and get calm, where before in my life, being still and being quiet was extremely uncomfortable for me because I didn't like what came up.
Right.
And that's my thoughts, and I didn't like that. So I did everything to avoid that.
Yeah. And that's so common of either that can look like overworking or over, drinking, overeating, over anything to get a louder stimulus than the voices in the head and like the thoughts and the feelings. And
so we don't have to be with ourselves.
Right.
And I remember reading that book title years ago, and it was Wherever You Go, There You Are. And I'm like, I know. And I don't want that. But it's like, you can't run from this stuff.
Right.
And it's just so true. But it was very scary for me to get still.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I did.
Yeah. It's all about the relationship you have with yourself.
I
And
agree.
it's like really transforming that relationship when you can be with yourself and you can stop judging and hold space for everything that's arising
Yes.
and come from a place of compassion and self-love and okay, this is what's arising. This is not a problem. And again, it's, and again, we've been taught there's so much conditioning around you're supposed to be happy all the time. You're supposed to feel good all the time. You're supposed to be positive all the time. So whenever we're not, then we feel like something's wrong with us.
Right.
And that's when we feel like, oh, I gotta make this go away. Like, what's the fastest way? Like, eat something, drink something, like distract myself, busy myself. So when you realize, and I teach a concept called the 50-50, that life is 50-50. It's, what you just mentioned is we're going to face challenges. Like that's a part of life. That's a fact of life. And life is 50-50. So we are going to have really great positive experiences. And we're also going to have really painful, hard experiences. And so it's not about being happy all the time. It's how can I better navigate what I call the shitty 50.
Yeah.
And learning how to, when you have those difficult emotions or when you have those intrusive thoughts, how do you deal with them? And we have never been taught this.
Yep.
This is completely missed from our curriculum. And it's the most important thing because it's such a big part of what drives you every single day. I mean, your emotions drive your actions, your choices, your behaviors, which create the results of your life.
Yes.
So if you don't know how to
regulate them,
process those emotions, how to change them, how to create the feelings and the thoughts that help you move forward towards what you want, then you have no power and you don't feel like you have any control over your life. And then you're reacting to the thoughts and the circumstances. And
it's a spiral, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of that when you can't. It's like grabbing a floaty ring when you're drowning. Is like, I need something to to keep my head afloat.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to touch on, which I'm sure that you must go into a little bit, but so much like what you said, the conditioning, those were put there not even by us.
No.
So sometimes we don't understand why we feel the way we feel.
Yeah.
And it's getting in touch with that. Maybe we don't need to understand it completely. We don't need to know exactly where it came from, because I know that that's really hard for people too. It's like, I don't want to go back into that.
Right. Yeah.
Content. But it's just recognizing it, acknowledging it, that maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not yours to hold, and there's an easier letting go of some of those emotions when you not take responsibility that it was yours and you have to keep it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, and something that I talk about a lot is, it's all made up. All, the thoughts that you have, the beliefs, it's all made up. It's not true.
Yes.
Yeah. So just recognizing that it's all made up, you can decide. You can just make up what you want.
Yeah.
And first being able to identify what you are believing. And I think, again, that can be challenging because it's like a fish in water. You don't realize that you even are operating from certain beliefs. Yeah. So, and that's where a coach comes in, because a coach can see those blind spots. And I always say, you can't see the label from inside the jar, but I can see your label because I'm outside of the jar. So I can read your label. I can read like what you're believing. And when I can show that to you, then you can have that awareness, and nothing changes until you're aware.
Exactly. Awareness is everything. Awareness is what gets you.
Yeah, it's the first step. Yeah, exactly.
And it's usually awareness of, I don't want to feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
Or the awareness of, maybe I don't have to feel like this anymore.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
It's just so, awareness, you're right. It's the
awareness of what you're feeling, why you're feeling it.
Yeah.
And then, yes, that there is another way. And
I think that's what I love. It's like, you don't have to stay there. There's things that you do. And it's conversations like this that I think, it's just like, oh, there is some hope there that I don't need to stay like this. And it doesn't have to take forever.
No.
That being said, I think
It's a process.
Never ending learner.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to find another layer. I know it. It's like,
Totally. Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to get
like,
to
this is your life. I mean, it's like the layers of an onion. It is never ending, and that's why another thing I talk about is that there's no rush. There's nowhere to get to.
Yes.
Like, this is it right here. This is your life. So can you enjoy it as much as, and I talk a lot about pleasure, and another thing for women is we're so pleasure starved because it's all about, again, taking care of everyone else and just fulfilling our responsibilities, home responsibilities, family responsibilities, work responsibilities. And there's no time left for us. There's no time for us to really find pleasure and joy and ease and relaxation and play and fun. But it's
so important.
So important. So important. Yeah.
And I think why I feel so passionate about it is, I mean, everyone's going to get there at their own pace and time. I have 3 daughters, and I'm like, if there's any way I can save them some time, start enjoying their life more in the moments, in the smaller moments, in looking for those moments, being aware of them, I think they're going to see a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's for me. Like, I don't want them to wait till they're 50.
I know. Yeah. And I think leading by example is the best thing. Like, you just doing your work and transforming yourself is the best thing you can do for everyone around you.
Exactly. And when we're talking to women, that is sometimes all they need to move forward is knowing they're helping somebody else. Because we are so built on that, right?
Yes.
Like we're here to serve. Like, who we serve next. And it's huge when we can go, you know what? By me being happy, the best thing I can do for my kids.
Yes.
The best thing I could, like, if you want to change the world, I just said this to my daughter. She's very sensitive. She's things that are going on in the world. It's devastating her. And I said, we might not be able to change the world from where we are, but we can make a difference by focusing on us and making ourselves happy. That will actually be what we can do to change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Change. And sometimes I think it gets overwhelming for people. I mean, and she's, 22, 23. And she just feels overwhelmed. Like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you got to start with you, because you being sad and depressed
isn't serving anyone.
It's not going to help anybody. Exactly. So if you can get yourself in that state where when you are happier, we all know this, and this is for us women out there, or I know when I was a young mom, I didn't take the time to do that, and my energy showed that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I work with so many women that have burned themselves out and just drained from, and then their family has to take care of them.
Yeah.
And then they can't, and then they become exactly what they don't want, which is the burden.
Yeah.
But it is so, and there's so much patriarchal conditioning that is in play, and it's slowly changing, which is great. And I do think each one of us has to lead by example of taking a stand and putting ourselves first. But in order to do that, like, the big challenge is overcoming that programming that we all as women have. Yeah. And so we can have the desire to have more self-care, but that conditioning can be so strong that we can't actually make the change. And so that can be really hard because we feel out of integrity with what we want and who we want to be, but we can't bridge the gap from our intention to action. So that's why working with the subconscious is so important, because it runs 95 to 98% of your life. So
It's crazy.
The 2% of you can really want something and want to change, but then you've got 98% of you saying, nope, that's not safe. That's scary. Yes. You can't do that. That's not allowed.
Yeah. What is that? I heard somebody say that it was, what is that phrase? The Goliath, David Goliath, or no, there's something about that. But it was just like you've got this tiny little piece of you that's trying to make the change for the 95% of you that's running the show. It's like you're fighting against something that you got to bring that back into where you're connected.
Oh yeah, you've got to address those subconscious, and that is emotional work. That is, really going deep into shadow work and the beliefs and the unconscious thoughts. And that can be challenging because, again, like I said, you can't see your own blind spots. And so having some support and guidance, and it can also, like, we haven't been taught how to do that, like how to navigate that, how to actually create those changes.
Yeah. Well, and how have we not been talking about the 95% of the subconscious mind? How is that not just a regular conversation that people are having and being taught in such young ages? Like,
totally,
it's the time to bring that into those little minds. Like,
Nike's just like, just do it, as if it was that easy.
It'd be great if it was that.
And then we could just do it. Like,
yes,
it's not that easy. It doesn't work like that. We can't just make ourselves do things. I mean, sometimes we can, absolutely, but most of the time we can't. So that we've got it. We need better approaches than just do it. Like, just push yourself. Just like, come on, try harder.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And then women and everyone ends up beating themselves up because they can't just do it. And they think, oh, there's something wrong with me. Yep. I must be lazy or unmotivated or not disciplined enough or incapable or not smart enough or whatever.
So true.
And it's just, you just haven't been taught the right tools. That's all. Like, you just don't know, you don't have those skills yet. And
it's possible to gain those skills, and it's possible to reprogram your subconscious thinking that it does become a program that you have chosen to run.
Totally.
In the background, right? So I think the other piece is when we start to do this kind of work, yes, it can be overwhelming. But when you start to see the results of just the way you look at things differently, I think the evidence just starts to stack upon itself, and that does change your overall feeling from inside.
Oh my gosh.
Creativity gets so much more, and things just open up. Like, I'm just like, and I feel like I'm just on the tip of it. So I can't even imagine what is possible for me. It's so exciting. And I just want every woman to feel that, like, feel like if you feel like there's something missing, there is.
Yeah.
And you can do something about that. Like, I felt like I had it all.
Yeah.
But there was a little piece of me that something was missing, and I just couldn't pinpoint it. And it's like, you got to do some excavating in there.
Ah, absolutely.
And the other thing I know that women talk about a lot is, or the women that I talk to is, why are we here? What's our purpose? And that's where we're missing the fulfillment piece. And that's what I was on that lifelong search for. It was like, what's my purpose? What am I doing? Like, am I here to make a difference? I don't think I'm making a difference. I'm not doing anything. So it was just a constant struggle of, what did it even matter?
Right.
Because I had that that I wasn't clear on what I was here for, but we live our purpose the whole way through. And I think that is something that really helped me at the beginning. It was, what if my purpose was to do what I did back then? And that was enough. Like, it would, because normally when we get down to the root of every issue, it's because we don't feel like we're enough.
Yeah. So I think that your dreams, your desires are the map to your purpose. And I agree. It's like sometimes it can feel like this big, heavy, like, if I don't figure this out, my life is a big waste. But like you said, it's like our purpose is simply to exist. Like, you don't need to do more to be more worthy of being here. You can do nothing. It's simply to exist. But it's the counting or connecting the dots backwards. It's when you keep following your desire, you can see how, it all made sense. Like, everything I did led me to this point. because I truly feel like I'm living my purpose, like without a doubt. It's so clear. And I help a lot of my clients do that as well. But it comes from really paying attention to those desires and following them and trusting them that they're not selfish. They're not ego driven.
Totally.
Like the word desire comes from of the stars or of the Father, of God. Like it's
Wow.
divinely inspired. Like the reason you want is it's not random.
Right.
Like I don't have a dream to be in the NBA. I
Right.
don't have that dream. I don't have the desire. I don't have I don't
And
have
other
what
people do.
Yeah, but I have the things that I dream about and the things that I have a desire. There is that seed of potential for those things inside of me. So trusting that
Yes.
and taking those steps in that direction, baby steps.
Yes. And those are put there for a reason. Like, I mean, my understanding is if you have a desire or a dream, it's meant for you.
Yeah.
Like it would not have been placed in there somewhere if it was not meant for you.
Exactly.
The other thing that I want to touch on just really quickly is there's also this feeling of some women are content, and they say that I'm content, like I've got everything I need. I'm like, you know what? There's a difference to me. You can be content, and if you're happy, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I think we're all trying to get there, right?
Yeah.
You can also be content and not happy. And it's just asking yourself that question, which is what I had to ask myself. Was I content in my life? Yeah, I had a good life, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want it all.
Right.
Like I'm not willing to settle for a content, unhappy life. I want a content, happy life that's overflowing with abundance in every category. Like I'm not willing just to stop here.
Exactly. And I coach a lot of people on this where they think that it has to be bad in order for them to like pursue something better.
Yes.
And so when it's good, they think like there's no need, but it can be good and you can want more.
Yes. Without the guilt.
Yeah. Because I mean, the nature of the universe is to continuously expand, as is with us. That is just our nature is to grow and to expand. And so I do think it is about being happy now and still growing and still expanding and seeking more, because we have that's like just part of being a human being. We are goal-oriented beings. Yeah. We are teleological beings. That is just part of who we are. So let yourself want what you want. It's okay to want. And there's, again, like so much conditioning that you should just be happy with what you have and you should just settle for what you get. And if you want more, that means you're being ungrateful, but none of that is true.
You're being greedy or you're being selfish, like all of those conditioning words that go around with that.
Yeah.
And that's what you are here to do, is to change that. So I love that. I love what you're doing. I would love to know or let people know how they can get a hold of you and where they can find you and connect with you. So if you could just tell us that quickly, would be awesome. And what you
so
have coming up
So I have my own podcast called The Pleasure Project Podcast. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and my website is all my name, danaskoglund.com, Dana with an A. And I have a group program that is also called The Pleasure Project. And then I do one-on-one coaching. So you can book a free 60-minute call with me to see if you're a fit for any of my programs or offerings. And I'm always doing stuff. So Instagram is probably the best way to just keep on,
keep in touch.
Keep in touch. And
so you are all about women. Well, you may have.
I coach men as well, but mostly 95% are women.
And living a life with ease. And it is about reprogramming the subconscious mind, as well as integrating into the body and the emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I love it. It's like, let's see where you're at right now. You don't have to know exactly what it is you want, but you're going to get them there.
Yes.
And then you're going to move forward. Because it's about moving forward, right? That's how I feel. It's like none of us want to stay stuck in the past. Right. And that's where all of our programming is. So if you wonder why you can't make any changes, it's because you need to do something with that piece and then have that trajectory going forward.
Yeah, because how you look at the past determines how you will look at the future. And so you will hold yourself back if you have unprocessed trauma or stories from the past. If you have a negative story and perspective of your past, you will limit yourself going forward.
Until you can come to that acceptance piece. In my opinion, it's that acceptance piece of I can't go back and change that. That's where I had to get to anyway. So just as just personal experience, I had to get to that place of acceptance and where I was going to go from there.
Yeah. And I do something called memory reconsolidation, where we can't change the past, but we can change the emotional track of the past, which means like the emotion that comes up when you think about it. And that's part of the rewiring work that I do, so that I rewire triggers. So if there's a trigger that previously created fear or contraction, we can just rewire that. So there's a completely different,
how amazing is that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. So cool what we can do with the brain. I mean, it's the most powerful tool that we have, but we were never given the instruction manual.
And we use like
that's
this.
Where I commit.
We use like the teeniest tiny bit, and we've got so more that's accessible to us. We just need to understand how to tap into it, which is what you're teaching, essentially.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And our stories are very important, like you said. Our stories of the past, also the stories of our future, though, and what we're telling ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just wrapped up a book collaboration, and it was women's stories, and that's what I'm seeing. And that is, once you share that, it's not so dark anymore.
Oh yeah,
shame and stuff that's attached to the meaning that we've put around those stories.
Yeah,
it's just, it opens up a whole new world for us.
Yeah, and it's so important to share also, because we realize we're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so appreciative that you came on, and I look forward to following you and seeing the pleasure projects. Just sounds amazing to me. I mean, even just saying those words. So that was a very good choice of words that you used there. And yeah, for those of you who are listening, I hope you reach out and check out and follow and see what Dana is up to, because I think you have so much value that you offer, and you are changing the world. So I just love that so much about you. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Dana, for sharing your expertise. And I know we only touched, I mean, there's so much more. So maybe that'll be another episode.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we will see you all on the next podcast. Bye-bye.